Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to run down the top 10 most submitted books into CGC. And as a reminder, this data comes directly from my friends over at CGC who send me this list in advance of these books actually being graded, and I try to combine it with a little bit of anecdotal information as well as some sales data from Go Collect. And as I mentioned, we're going to run down the top 10. But I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications if you haven't already done so, because later this week I'm going to be running down the top 11 through 20 books that were submitted into CGC, and you do not want to miss that. With that said, let's get to the list. This video is sponsored by Shortboxed, the easiest and safest way to buy and sell graded comic books. Visit them today using the link in the description. Number 10 on the list is Moon Knight issue number 1 from 1980. This book is one of 6 books from the 80s to make the top 20, but the only one to crack the top 10. Moon Knight issue number 1 is, of course, the first issue in the ongoing Moon Knight series. The 9.8 value of this comic has been on a decline since October of 2021, and at present has reset to a value not seen since October of 2020. That's right, the current value of this comic at $338 is basically what it was in the last quarter of 2020. Number 9 on the list is X-Men issue number 4, published by Marvel Comics in 1992. This book is the first appearance of Omega Red and has a total of 13,041 graded copies on the CGC census. At present, 34% of these copies are a 9.8, which has an average price of $135. What's really interesting about this comic is that there are more 9.8s on the census than 9.6s and 9.4s combined. Number 8 on the list is Venom Lethal Protector issue number 1. And just like the last book, there is some interesting stuff that is happening with this book. And I specifically want to highlight that there are more universal 9.8s on the census of Venom Lethal Protector issue number 1 than every other grade combined. 54% of the universal blue labels on the census are a 9.8, and this book at a 9.8 has a 30-day average price of $123. Number 7 on the list is the only DC book to make the list, and we are talking about Nice House on a Lake issue number 1, a book that has been off and on the list for more than a year. There are presently 3,649 total graded copies of this book on the census. The 9.8, which represents 76% of the graded copies, has a 30-day average value of $40 and a recent sale at $52. Number 6 on the list is X-Men issue number 1 from 1991, specifically the Magneto cover. This book at a 9.8 has a 30-day average price of $79 with a recent sale of $95. At present, there are a total of 16,667 graded copies of this book on the census. 13,000 of them are a universal blue label, and an additional 3,564 are yellow label. Number 5 on the list is another Moon Knight book, but this one is Moon Knight issue number 1 from 2021. And I'll be honest, I am surprised to see this book on the list. And I say that because the value of this book for some time has actually been below the cost to get this book submitted, cleaned, pressed, and graded. And so I'm really surprised that people are continuing to send this book in. In fact, the 30-day average for this book is just $31. I should also mention that there are 985 total graded copies, and 80% of them are a 9.8. Number 4 on the list is Spawn's Universe issue number 1 from Todd McFarlane and Image Comics. At present, this comic has a 30-day average price of $36, which is essentially roughly what it's been for about a year. Despite this low value, the book continues to flow into CGC, and given the popularity of Todd McFarlane and Spawn, this is not likely to change. At present, there are 829 total graded copies of this book on the CGC census. Number 3 is Spawn issue number 1. This book was in the number 1 spot last month due to the Todd McFarlane signing, but has fallen to the 3rd spot. But that's not terrible, to be honest with you, because it still represents a lot of copies that are flowing in. Since last month, the total census count on this book has increased by 740 copies, which means that there are a total of 29,240 total graded copies of this comic on the census. There are currently 10,371 9.8s with a fair market value of $184, which is up $4 since last month. Number 2 on the list is Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 30, the BAM Box Edition. There are currently 695 yellow labels of this book on the census, with a 9.8 having a 30-day average price of $128. The most recent sale for this comic was $170. That is actually the highest it's been in 11 months. I should also mention that there are 3 universal blue label copies of this comic on the census. Again, the vast majority of these books are signed, included in the BAM box, but there are a couple that are blue label. And the number 1 book on the list is Ultimate Fallout issue number 4, the Facsimile Edition. There are currently 2,135 total graded copies of this book on the census, with 1,700 of them being a blue label 9.8. The 30-day average for this comic is $52. However, the most recent sales have been around $38. And as I said before, it really isn't clear to me why so many copies of this book are going into CGC, but they are. And with that said, you definitely want to pay attention if you happen to be looking for an Ultimate Fallout book. If you see the red box around the word Marvel, that is the facsimile copy and not the real thing. So with that, we are going to wrap this video up. I again want to thank the sponsor, and I want to encourage you all to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, because later this week I'm going to be releasing the expanded list in which we look at books 11 through 20 that have been sent in to CGC for grading. So you definitely do not want to miss that. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.